Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Courtney and I am a full-time reseller on Poshmark and eBay. And today I'm here to answer the question, do I like being a full-time reseller? So if you aren't subscribed, my name is Courtney. I sell on 2 platforms currently. I sell on eBay and Poshmark, and I've been reselling for a little over a year. I started YouTube relatively early in my reselling journey, so hopefully I could share a lot of the mistakes I was making and be helpful to others. And so if you like thrift hauls, what sold videos, data analysis on these different platforms, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And if you just want to jump right into the topic of the video, then that's where we're headed. I'm going to basically just go through and give you some pros and cons in my experience of being a full-time reseller, slightly different than being a reseller in general, and hopefully it will make sense. I will just say I try to keep everything relatively positive on this channel, partly because I think that, that's kind of my outlook on life. It's just kind of not dwell on the negative, not dwell on the problems, but just how do I overcome those? How do I make things better? And I just see this as a business. I just want to move forward and be successful. So when I do a little analysis like this, it's usually prompted by something. And in this situation, it was prompted by some additional home expenses that I was not expecting. And if you want more info on that, you can go and watch my recent video on my second channel. It's linked down below. But I, for the first time as a reseller, thought about maybe, should I just go back and get a regular job? And because I spent a little bit of time thinking about why I like reselling and do I really want to continue on this journey, I thought it was the perfect time for me to share kind of my notes. And so I'm just going to say one of the best things about reselling, or really any self-employed job, most self-employed jobs, is I get to make my own schedule. And this isn't like, I just had a painter here recently, and he's technically self-employed, but he has to make appointments with people, and that's kind of a lot of his day is going to different houses. And reselling is just really interesting because I can, in a sense, wake up any day, and if I feel like taking photos, I have stuff to take photos of. If I feel like I need to get out of the house and go thrifting, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna go thrifting. If I feel like sitting at my computer and not moving one bit and just watching Netflix all day and getting some work done, I have lots of spreadsheets to work on. So I feel like there's a lot with being a full-time reseller that gives you a lot of flexibility, and there's just, besides shipping every day or every other day, you really don't have any have to do with that exact moment type of things. So I think it's a huge pro. Now the downside or the con to this pro is self-motivation can be extraordinarily hard. For me, I think the only struggle I have found is I don't really separate my day. So I've been trying to get better about, I wake up with the intent to take the morning off. I don't really take full days off, and that's just by personal choice, but I want to go in with intent of my plan instead of waking up and kind of, I start working, but then I get distracted and start cooking some breakfast. And then I go back to working for a little bit, and then I go and start cleaning my house. That back and forth has not been the most productive, so I'm trying to make improvements for myself. But I'm a pretty self-motivated person. I've managed teams where I've had to manage others, and I've also, most of my career has been reporting to bosses, giving them updates, once a week type of thing, where they're not watching they're not dictating my day. I have to dictate my own day. So that's not new for me, and it's not hard for me, but it could be a downside for someone who maybe isn't great at self-motivation. Next up is the fact that there is so much potential to kind of design the business that you want. And I think one of the mistakes, or it's not even a mistake, I just think one of the natural elements of getting into reselling is probably you're going to follow someone and they're going to say something, or they're going to say they do something, and you're going to repeat that. And I can't tell you how many brands I picked up because I saw someone pick it up, or how many times just recently I made a change to my Poshmark business, and I'm like, wow, it took me a year to make this change. Why was I even doing it the way I was doing it for the entire year when this way is so much better? I can't remember what it was, but because someone, when I first started, said that that's what they did, and I just stuck with it. I think naturally you're going to follow people who appear to have some things figured out. And that's not a bad thing, but the cool thing is that as you go, you can kind of design your own business. The downside is that there's probably figuring out the business that you want, whether it's that you just want to sell high-end designer clothing, or you want to sell all bread and butter because that's what you have access to and that's what you like to shop. Or you like to sell some hard goods, or maybe only hard goods. Figuring out what you like is probably going to be because of a lot of failure. My dog is drinking water in the background, but my apologies if you can hear that. But failure can actually be really hard on some people. For me, I just want to learn from it and pivot and make a change so that I don't continue down that path. But to kind of build the business that you want, that is best for you, which is super exciting, it's probably going to be a little rocky to get there. And so good and bad to that. Next up is, this is a very low cost way to start a business. And what I mean by that is there are people, and this is not me, who pick some stuff out of their house, sold that's listed on eBay or on Poshmark if it's clothing, and they took that money and they reinvested that exact money. So I don't know if you've seen those people, and they sell something out of their house and they make $20, and then they take that $20, they go to a thrift store and they buy 5 things, and they sell those 5 things and they get $100, and they basically just growing that money by reinvesting that money, and they never really use anything out of their own pocket. That's possible. For me, I am very impatient, and so when I discover there's something I like, I don't have patience for that. But that is a strategy, and that's a way that some people have done it. For me, I was working full time. I had a very solid career. I had money. I wasn't hurting by any means, and so I had the ability to invest in this small business by building my inventory before I was selling enough of it. So I was in the negative for a period of time, and that was okay. That worked for me. But even being in the negative, it was, there's not many small businesses you can start with a few $1,000s. You don't need to rent a space. You don't need to hire any employees. You don't really need to pay for any programs. I mean, you can, in a sense, use free USPS supplies. You might need to buy printer paper and ink. You can pretty much start with nothing and be successful, which is great. The downside to this is it can take a lot of time to build inventory and knowledge, and that time is money. For me, time is money, and so I treat it equally. If something takes me a lot of time, that is just wasted dollars, just like I'm throwing money in the trash. So although it does take time to build something and it is an investment, it for me is kind of a con, because it's all kind of one and the same. Next up is there are a lot of sourcing options, so you can kind of find something that works for you. There are plenty of people that like to go to thrift stores, and there's plenty of people that hate them. But that's okay. You can be a reseller and never step foot in a thrift store, or just live in them. You can kind of do what you want. My style is I don't live near anything. So really the closest Goodwill or Salvation Army is an hour away. I don't have many yard sales because I do live in a fairly small area. So for me, I have to figure out ways to source and be economical about it, and be sensitive to my time and be cost effective. So I do like to go to the Goodwill bins down in LA. It's about 5 hours round trip when you include my dog's daycare, which is important to make sure she's taken care of. But so it's a long day for me to go do that. But I'd rather do one long day each week and then be home the rest of the time and getting stuff done than, constantly running back and forth to a thrift store. Now, I have thought about this recently. If I lived in, let's say, San Francisco, where I moved here from, there was a thrift store, it felt like, on every corner. Now, some of them were relatively expensive and more vintage and more styled and that kind of stuff. But there were plenty of thrift stores within that, 7-mile radius of the city. I think if I lived closer to thrift stores, I probably would go thrifting more and just select less items at higher value price points. But for me, I'm okay selling a $10 item, and I definitely love selling a $50 item, and I kind of sell everything in between. So I can't afford to go thrifting all that much because of the gas and the time it takes for me. But that is something that people do. I also am looking into wholesale options, partly because I don't just sell clothing. I like hard goods. I like selling random things. So I'm looking at how can I get inventory in multiple ways, inventory in duplicates, and but that's the cool thing, is you can kind of figure out what works for you. The downside is that figuring out what works for you is time, and it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming I just talked to someone recently, and I said, oh, you should really, they were complaining about thrift store prices. I was like, well, if it doesn't sell in their store, it'll just end up at the bins. So I'm okay with it. I don't mind thrift store pricing. I appreciate all thrift stores. I appreciate them taking chances. And I also appreciate that a lot of their employees, it's part of their training is learning how to price. And so absurd pricing doesn't bother me. If it doesn't sell there, it will end up probably at their clearance center. And so I said this, and they said, oh, I went to the bins once and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I said, well, yeah, it's hard at first and it's overwhelming at first. But if you go a few times, more than likely, you'll find a number of really great gems, at least in our area. And then you'll be hooked. But it's that time, and it can be overwhelming to kind of learn something new. So that's kind of a con, I think, for some people. Another pro is the community of resellers. It is hands down one of the best things about reselling, is being able to network with people from all over the country and all over the world. I met some people, oh my gosh, this is the funniest story, and I have not shared this, but it made my day. I went to eBay Open recently in Las Vegas, and there were a number of people there that I've watched their YouTube, and so I would say hi to people who I had seen their YouTube, and hey, I like your videos, and I just, was trying to just say hi to people. And there's a girl, she lives in Canada. Is it ThriftLoveSell? Love ThriftLoveSell? Love ThriftLoveSell? Oh my gosh, it's those three words in some combination. I'll link her channel below. I went up to her, and I just like what she picks up. I like her personality, and I went up to her and I said, hey, I love your videos. And she said, oh my gosh, I like your videos too. And I was really flattered that she even knew who I was. So we were talking, and her husband was sitting right there. And this is totally off topic, and I apologize, but I have to get it out there. So her husband was right there, and they were talking. They said, oh, so you live in LA? I said, oh, just north of LA, a small town, kind of in the mountains. And they said, oh, what's the town called? And I said, oh, no one knows about it. And they said, oh, he has an uncle that lives in Tehachapi. And my face just stopped. Are you kidding? Like, Tehachapi, the city I don't live in, but I live close to it. There's 30,000 max in this greater Tehachapi area. And so it's not a big area by any means. Most people have never heard of it. And so the fact that they're from Canada and their uncle lives basically probably 10 miles from me was just such a weird thing. But it's so fun to be part of that reseller community and meet people, whether virtually or in person at events, and it's just great. The downside to the community, though, is self-comparison. Now, I say that this is a downside because it's a downside for some. It's not really a downside for me. I'm very competitive. I'm very motivated by seeing people doing great things and trying to figure out how do I need to get there. But social media, as with our personal lives, with friends and family, it can kind of bring you down if you see a whole bunch of people like, yeah, I just picked up this, Gucci. And you're like, I've never held a Gucci. I don't think I'll ever see a Gucci. And that can be really discouraging. I know that I've had people in my comments say, oh, I wish I could find the stuff that you find at your thrift stores. I think social media and the reseller community can be really great. But if you find that it is not healthy for you, it might not be that great for you. I hope that makes sense. I personally like to follow people who have a business model that is more than mine, so that I can maybe pick up something and maybe get to where they're at. So a lot of people I watch, I follow, I'm engaged with, not all, but a lot of them are people doing higher numbers than I am. And that's just my personal choice. But I do think that I've heard a number of people, especially on Instagram, just say how discouraging it can be if you're having a really bad sourcing week and it seems like everyone around you is just picking up gold, or you're just not having any sales and everyone's doing their package piles high, and it can bring you down. It can be discouraging, and it can make you potentially want to quit. So it's good and bad. I like self-comparison because it's healthy for me, but I know it's not healthy for everyone. I also love when people are successful. I want everyone to be successful, and I think there's enough room for all of us. So yeah. Next up is I can pay myself when I want to, which is kind of cool. I feel like I just heard on the radio this app where earning or something. I'm not promoting them by any way. I've never tried them, but I heard this guy talking, and like he didn't have to ask his parents for money anymore, and he didn't need to wait for his paycheck. He could use this app. I don't really know how it works, but I was thinking, yeah, it's kind of cool in reselling. When I need money, I can kind of go into my PayPal, or I can go into my Poshmark. Now I do take out my Poshmark money pretty like every day to every other day, but my PayPal money I'll usually take out once every week or two. But if I need to, I can usually go in there and withdraw if I need more personal money. The downside to this is I also don't have consistent money. So I'm paying my bills. I have 3 big revenue streams, and I'm paying my bills. I'm by nowhere comfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. I would like to put more in savings. I would like to have stuff going more into my 401k. I have taxes at the end of this year that I'm already trying to pay the government for, so that I don't get hit with a big, tax bill. So I'm paying my bills, but I'm uncomfortable. And I think that being able to pay myself whenever I want sometimes feels good in the moment, but then I'm also sitting there 10 days away from my mortgage payment going, what do I need to do? What do I need to sell to be able to make my mortgage payment? And that I don't really like. I don't like not having a consistent paycheck. So next up is, with great risk can come great reward or great failure. What I mean by this is, I think with reselling or with really any business, to learn, to grow, to be successful, you need to take some risks. And whether that is you're just selling clothing and you take a risk on a new brand you've never sold, or maybe you buy some wholesale stuff and it's unmanifested and you have no idea what you're gonna get. Sometimes you do kind of put your money out there and there's no guarantee. But sometimes that can be pretty awesome if you find a gold mine, or it's kind of like those storage lockers, which I've been scouting out because I would love to get one at some point. So I'm on the hunt. But I mean, you could go and you could get complete and utter junk, nothing of value, or you could go and find diamonds. I mean, I've seen some of these videos and I'm just like, it's like gambling. It is so much like gambling. There is great risk, but there can be great rewards. There is business strategy too. So I'm usually pretty comfortable with failure. I don't see failure as a bad thing. I don't see other people's failure as a bad thing. I see it as, okay, how can you learn from this and move on and not make that mistake again, or maybe not make as big of a mistake again. But yeah, it can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. I feel like you hear my UPS driver. I don't know. I might be hearing things. We'll cut that out, maybe. Maybe a motorcycle. I don't hear much around here because I don't live around much, but anyways. All right, next up is I have unlimited vacation time. Now, I will say this is not the first time in my life where I've technically had unlimited vacation. I've worked at 2 technology startups in the San Francisco area where we did not have structured vacation. Everyone had unlimited vacation time. It was the worst thing. I had such a hard time taking a day off. I had such a hard time asking for a week off or 2 weeks off, God forbid, because I felt like I wasn't accruing time like you do in a normal job where you're like, yep, I've earned this 2 weeks so I can ask for a 2-week vacation. It's the same way now. I don't feel like I don't see my vacation time accruing. However, that might be really smart. It's just to like, okay, this is how much vacation time I've earned in X amount of time I've been reselling full time. I need to take a week off at some point. Maybe during the holidays. Maybe I'll take a week off then. But you have unlimited vacation time. And if this isn't your primary income, if maybe you have a significant other who is the primary bill payer and this is just extra money, maybe you can take more vacations and more time off. For me, I have no one else helping me with my bills. So I haven't quite figured out how I financially take time off, how I deal with shipping, because I wouldn't want to shut down my stores because I have no one that lives near me. My parents are an hour away. Most of my friends are a half hour away. So yeah, I don't know what I would do, but technically you have unlimited vacation, which could be a cool thing. The next one that kind of is like that is you don't have a boss, which I think most people are like, yes, I don't have a boss. I don't have anyone yelling at me. I was a boss for a long time of many people. And so I like bosses. I think it's hard being a boss. I think it's hard being an employee. Okay, it's not just me. I think they're doing construction up there. And now my dog hears it, so she starts barking. That's because there's a big truck. So my apologies. Okay, distractions. So I've really lucked out. I've had a lot of great bosses that have been mentors and been supportive and have challenged me and also called me out when I made mistakes. Bosses are not there to be your friends, but hopefully they can help you grow and be a better person. I liked being a manager. I liked managing people. I liked being people's bosses, but I also kind of like this break from both right now. The good thing is that you don't have to answer to anyone. You get to make all the decisions. The downside to that is no one's holding me accountable and no one is really there to collaborate with. And I know I've mentioned this in a previous video. Collaboration, especially when you're just, hey, I have this thought. I want to run this by someone. I mean, some people have that on social media with some of the reseller friends. I don't like to bother people on the reselling community. I mean, even some people I talk to pretty regularly, I rarely throw out questions or I don't want to bother them because I know they're busy. So I do miss being held accountable at times because some days I just feel like being lazy and it's like, oh, if someone was there staring at me, I wouldn't be this lazy. So it's a good thing and a bad thing for me. And then the last pro before I answer the question is that the growth potential with reselling is insane. It's incredible. There are so many different platforms. There are people that are just killing it on Amazon and eBay and Wholesale, and even some people appear to be killing it on Poshmark only, which just is mind-boggling. That is something I will note. I would never be full-time if I was only on Poshmark. Poshmark is currently my lowest revenue stream at the moment. Okay, YouTube is. eBay passed Poshmark pretty quickly. I don't know how people do it. I know people do it, and that's great. I would not be full-time. I would have quit a long time ago if I was Poshmark only. So again, I do have money coming in from Poshmark, eBay, a little bit of affiliate marketing from Amazon affiliates, and then YouTube. So and if I didn't have all of it, I wouldn't be full-time. I wouldn't be able to pay my bills on just, now maybe it's because I went full-time too soon, but so anyways, the growth potential is insane. The downside is that for me at least, it is tempting to go and jump on all the platforms. Like, I'm very intrigued by Amazon, but I know myself. I know that I need to really get Poshmark. I mean, Poshmark's easy and doesn't really take any energy from me right now. But eBay, I really want to get a grasp on eBay and have that business just kind of running smoothly before I try and tackle another platform. But there's, Mercari that people ask me, why don't you sell in Mercari or Grailed, or there's a bajillion, Relove, or all of that stuff. It all takes time. And I also do take stuff to a local consignment store and I get a little bit of money there each month. And then I'm also starting an antique booth, which I'm hoping to have a little bit of money. So for me, being full-time is having different revenue streams. I've seen a lot of people, full-time resellers, talk about that's what works best for them, is diversifying. Again, there are people that only sell on Poshmark and are successful. I'm never going to be that person, and I don't know how they do it, and I applaud everyone's success. For me, I just feel most comfortable having money coming in from many different places. So, so I wouldn't want to start too much and fail and just be overexposed. And so I think that's the downside of having so many reselling options. There's things like Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp that people do. There's a lot. So picking and choosing what you're really excited about and maybe just not doing everything. I don't know. So in the response, or my response, do I currently like being a full-time reseller? Yes. I do. I had a rough couple weeks, and I'm sure that will not be the only rough time, but I had rough times and then I was full-time employed and expenses come up and, you feel pretty down. For me, I am pretty self-motivated and self-disciplined, and so reselling does work well. I don't have to worry about a commute. I can spend time with my mom and dad who are retired. I don't have to take my dog to daycare. I can see my friends when I want to. But it also means I'm spending a lot of time working until 1 a.m. and a lot of times where I'm doing the right thing and I'm not going to go do something fun today because I need to get some work done. So I finally am figuring out what I like though with reselling, and I think that is critical, and I think it takes a lot of trial and error. So I don't like just clothing. I'm not a big clothing person. Or fashion person. I've never really personally spent a lot of money on clothing for myself. I'm pretty simple, I guess. I like just learning about clothing designers and learning about new brands, and it's easy to pick up for me, but I'm more intrigued with hard goods. And so I think having more of a balance of hard goods and clothing is kind of my direction. I really love eBay. I'll keep Poshmark. And I do enjoy sharing my journey on YouTube. So that's just kind of my perspective. It is not for everyone. I will not be leaving the reselling community anytime soon. But it was a moment of stress and thought. And so I thought I'd share here. So if you do like this video, hit the thumbs up, let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.